Hey guys, so I know it's been a little while since I've done a real talk episode with you guys. I apologize for that, but I did say in the beginning that this wasn't like something I was committing to doing on a regular weekly basis, simply because filming 3 videos in a week is really difficult for me to do now with 2 kids, which is so incredibly appropriate because today's video topic is the transition from 1 to 2 kids. This is definitely my experience and not everybody's is going to be like this, but I'm sure you will find at least some commonalities that you can agree with if you already have more than 1 kid and you're just kind of watching this out of sheer curiosity. And if you are a parent that has a new baby that's about to come into the house and you're just kind of wondering like what the differences are going to be, I feel like there are a lot of things in this that you will find useful. The other thing that I want to make sure that I put in the back of your mind as you're listening to some of the things that I'm sharing with you is that your experience might be very different because your children are entirely different ages. So if this is your first time visiting my channel and you don't know, I do have 2 little girls. They are about to be, next month, they are turning 3 and 1. And I think that if your children are much farther apart, like if you had a 5 or 6 or 7-year-old and a baby, things would be a lot different than some of the things that I'm experiencing. Just know going into this video and listening to the things I'm sharing with you that these are my experiences based on having had a 2-year-old at the time that our baby entered the house. So I feel like after having had 2 kids for a year, I do have some credibility at this point to share with you guys what you might realistically be able to expect if your children are going to be about 2 years apart and roughly in the toddler years and a baby. The first thing I want to address, because I know that this was the #1 thing on my mind before the baby came into the house, and that was mom guilt. I had so much mom guilt. Like, I didn't even know how many kids I wanted to have. I knew that I didn't want to have that many because I grew up in a family of 3 and then eventually 4 when I was 12 years old. And I knew that it was just too much for me as a kid. Like, I know some people really like big families, but I wasn't a huge fan. So I always knew I wanted to have a smaller family, probably 2 kids, but I also wasn't committed to that. So for a long time, Mike and I were kind of like, you know, I think we're okay with having 1. Like, Kylie might be it. I think we're good. And then as Kylie got over the 1-year mark, I started thinking about, well, it might be nice to have a baby again. And I was conflicted. I constantly went back and forth in my mind. I almost felt like I was betraying Kylie, who's my older one, by having another baby. And I was really worried how she was going to react. And I was legitimately worried, like, am I going to be able to love another child the same way that I love Kylie? I don't know. I just thought about these things all the time. These thoughts plagued me and I was really worried about it. And finally I was just like, you know what? I weighed the pros and cons of having a single child versus having 2. And in the end, we decided, yes, we did want to have another one. So we had Mia. I will tell you, as soon as Mia came into this world, all of those concerns, all of that mom guilt, almost all of it, melted away. Like, almost instantly, as soon as she was in my arms. I do not regret it for 1 second having another child. And right now they're kind of at tough ages and they're not really like playing together yet. So they haven't really discovered the whole friendship aspect of having a sibling and having a playmate, but I know that they are very close to getting to that part, that age in their life. And I'm really excited for it. So I'm amped to see how their relationship blossoms. And I know it comes with its struggles too, but for the most part, I'm aiming to help shape it into as positive of a sibling relationship as I can possibly help it to be, at least within my parental means. I remember thinking to myself when I was holding Mia in the hospital, like, oh my goodness, I love this baby so much. And yes, I still love Kylie just as much. It's not like I divided my love just grew bigger. And I never imagined that was going to be possible, but it is. So yes, if you are worried about mom guilt, just know that it's real, it's there, but generally speaking, I think for most people, as soon as the second baby arrives, that's not an issue anymore. The other part of the mom guilt, and this is why I said almost was gone once Mia was here, was I was still worried after the baby came home how Kylie was going to adjust. So I still had a lot of guilt over having to divide my time now between her and the baby, and seeing what her reactions were to me having to ask her to wait constantly when the baby was really little, you know, not being able to be there for her right away like I always was beforehand, and she wasn't used to that. And to her credit, she actually adjusted quite well. She wasn't acting in any particular way where she seemed overtly jealous or anything like that, but I think it was a combination of like postpartum hormones and all that stuff. I literally cried my eyeballs out so many times in the weeks following Mia's birth just because I felt so guilty. But I will say that probably around the 2-month mark is how I remember it, is where my hormones started to level out a little bit and I wasn't crying like hardly at all for anything anymore, and things started to feel normal. Having 2 kids started to feel normal to me, and I didn't have that mom guilt anymore whatsoever. When I had 1 baby, I thought that I wasn't getting nearly enough sleep. I legitimately felt like I was dying like for like the first 2 or 3 weeks that I had Kylie, because I was not used to not having any sleep at all. Eventually your body gets used to it, and you know, you learn that coffee is amazing. You know, it helps to get you through the day. Up until she was about 1, because she did not sleep through the night until she was 13 months old, I definitely felt like I was lacking sleep and I wasn't getting enough. Well, with a second baby in the house, so my toddler at the point that the baby was born was sleeping through the night, so I was getting a full night of rest every single night. Once the baby came into the house, I definitely missed the days that I only had 1 baby, because if Kylie did happen to wake up for some random reason, that was just yet another time in the night that I was getting up, and I was always worried. Even though Kylie usually didn't do that, it's still a possibility, you know, things happen. And so I was always worried, like, oh my gosh, are they gonna wake up at the same time? What am I gonna do? Because she typically looks for me and not Mike at night. And so I was like, what if I'm busy and I'm in the room with Mia when she happens to wake up? And in the last year, I think that has happened maybe twice. I trained her ahead of time that if she did wake up and was coming to look for me and couldn't find me, to go check Mia's room. And that was what she did the first time that it ever happened. And she saw me in the room, and I actually noticed that she was there. So I was able to leave Mia's room and go attend to what she needed. But yeah, it's a little bit more complicated is basically all it is. And you definitely feel the lack of sleep, because during the daytime, I was so bad when I only had 1 kid. I never took naps. I'm the mom that was like, okay, I can do the dishes, I can do the laundry, I can do this, I can do that. As soon as Kylie went down for a nap, I was like, okay, go time. And I would immediately start doing all of the house chores. I regret that so much now. I wish I had taken all of the naps that I could have, because now that I have 2 babies, I am legit exhausted sometimes during the day, and I wish so badly I could take a nap during the day when Mia is napping. But I have a toddler who recently stopped taking naps altogether. Even though she probably still needs them, she fights them tooth and nail, and I've just decided it's not worth the battle anymore. So if she falls asleep, she falls asleep, and if she doesn't, then she doesn't, and most days she doesn't. So I have a toddler from the morning at 6:30, 7 o'clock when she wakes up, all the way until 7 o'clock at night when they both go to bed, and I have no break unless she randomly falls asleep, which almost never happens anymore. So I definitely wish I had taken all of the naps I could have. And if you are still with 1 child, please do yourself the favor, go take all the naps while you still have the chance, because it is a luxury that I long for and I fantasize about sometimes as I'm falling asleep sitting in the playroom with both of the girls. That's the honest truth. So when it comes to eating, eating for me and eating for the girls. The obvious thing with 2 kids, you now have 2 kids to think about feeding constantly. When they're babies and it's just milk, it's not a big deal. You know, it's when they hit 6 months and they start eating solid foods that you kind of jump into overdrive, and you're like, okay, I know how my toddler eats, or my older child. I know what their likes are, I know what their dislikes are. They can tell me if they're hungry. You don't realize how easy life has really become once they've reached that stage, because now I'm in this stage where I'm guessing constantly, oh, is she crying because she's hungry? And what do I feed her? And what can she eat? What has she not had yet? Things like that. So you're almost having to come up with 2 separate menus, I want to say. I mean, for the most part, I try to feed both of my girls the same thing, but there are some things that it's just more difficult for Mia to eat right now, like meat products, because she doesn't have any molars yet. So you have to kind of either prepare something separate, or you have to prepare the baby's food in a different way to make it easy for the baby to eat. So you're still doing two different things when you have to feed each of the kids. Eating for two kids is just, you know, double the work. You just have an extra human to think about. So that part's pretty self-explanatory. When it comes to eating for myself, I know that with Kylie, when she was by herself, it was actually really nice. I found myself able to take my time preparing a snack or a lunch for both of us, and I would always sit down with her at her little weaning table, and I would always eat with her, and I made a very big point of it to make sure that she was never eating alone, ever. And that's because I want my children to grow up feeling like meal times are family times, and it's a time to enjoy food and have conversation and that kind of thing. And so I always made that effort. Now that I have two kids, I'm finding that I am hungry a lot because I'm so busy preparing both of their foods and making sure the baby's squared away and she's got her bib, and you know, the dogs are not anywhere near her high chair where they're scooping up all of her leftovers because they have sensitive stomachs and they can't have any of it, and making sure Kylie's taken care of and they both have drinks. It's just a lot. So I find myself putting my own needs on the back burner, and I often don't get to eat anything with them until they're like at least halfway done with what they're eating already. So it's kind of a bummer in that respect. I feel like as Mia gets a little bit older, that will become easier, and I'll be able to go back to preparing both of our meals and sitting down and eating with them like I used to do with Kylie. But honestly, I'm just finding it a little bit more difficult to do that right now. So I do snack a lot on the go. Most of the time I don't eat sitting down, even though I wish I could and I want to. I often find myself standing at the counter, like wolfing down a bowl of cereal really quickly, or eating a granola bar like as we're walking out the door, or if we're in the car, that's like my spot to have a snack. I always pack snacks when we get in the car. It's not as slow and easy as it was before. Everything's just a little bit more rushed, and maybe that's the way that I'm running their schedule. That could be an aspect of it. My older child was also a very good eater. We did baby-led weaning with both of them, and Kylie ate basically anything I gave her up until, I would say, about 3 months ago. She has hit that preschool picky eating stage that she is refusing just flat out to eat things that she has always eaten for no particular reason at all. So we're definitely battling that with her right now, and I don't want it to be a battle. I definitely take a very laid back stance when it comes to eating. My personal philosophy is that it's the parent's job to provide all of the healthy foods, and it's up to the child to decide what and when to eat it. So oftentimes she hardly touches the stuff that's on her plate because I refuse to give her nothing but mac and cheese and hot dogs, just because that's what she would eat if I did give it to her. I want her to learn that, you know, she needs to eat healthy things and fill her belly with healthy things. So I continue to offer her all of the same things that we have always eaten, and I'm just kind of hoping that eventually she'll come around and start eating those things again. The one thing I do is to make sure that I put at least one thing on her plate that I know she's going to eat. This way she's not entirely skipping everything on the plate. She's at least eating one thing that's on there. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit more of a struggle these days with eating for her. So that adds to my stress a little bit at meal times, and that's probably why I feel like it's so different with two kids. When it comes to playing with both of the girls, I just did a whole video on managing siblings with kind of a focus on play on Thursday. So if you haven't seen that video, I will link it down below for you guys. The basic gist of it is that playtime is just a little bit more involved. I've now taken on more of the role of a conflict resolution coach guide for playtime, whereas before, playtime with one kid was basically on autopilot. Like Kylie played, I sat there, I engaged with her. Sometimes she played by herself, but everything was pretty smooth and easygoing. I will say for the most part, the mess was pretty containable too when it was just one. Now that Kylie's older and she's getting into more things and she's into imaginative play and the baby is now mobile, the mess has almost increased, not by double, but what seems like quadruple, because they're both pulling things off of our shelves constantly and only putting them back sporadically. It's mostly me doing a lot of the cleanup and trying to model right now for both of them. Obviously Mia can't clean up after herself yet, but Kylie knows how, and she will only do it sometimes. I'm always encouraging her to, and I'm always modeling it myself, and I try to take a team approach to it. I always tell her, Kylie, teamwork makes the dream work, to the point that she actually told me that last week, which was really funny. So sometimes she'll help me willingly, other times she kind of does it begrudgingly, but I always do it with her. I don't ever like point at her and say, go clean up the playroom, because that's not fun for anybody, and that's certainly not motivating for her to want to clean up. So we always do it together, but it is a lot bigger of a mess. Especially if Kylie is working on something and Mia comes over and wrecks it, and she gets upset and decides she doesn't want to do it anymore, and then she just runs off and finds something else to do. So there's just a lot of mess happening, and again, a lot of that conflict resolution happening. So play is definitely somewhere that I have become much more active in what's going on, whereas before with one child, play was definitely a lot more passive. I also find that it's a little bit more difficult for me to play with Kylie in the way that she wants me to play with her now, because she wants that imaginative pretend play 24/7. And I try my best to delve into her world and play with her and take on the roles that she's asking me to assign in whatever imaginative scenario she's come up with. But it's very difficult to do that when you also have a baby who is perhaps crying because she's hungry, or she needs a diaper change, or whatever the case is. There's just, you know, another human there that really makes it a little bit harder to 100% lose myself in Kylie's play with her. And I think she finds that a little bit frustrating too. It's a delicate balance that you have to walk between the two of them, and it's something that I'm still working on every single day, and I'm trying to be as patient as possible. There are moments where they are both playing independently in the playroom, and it's beautiful. I can sneak off and grab a cup of coffee or wash the dishes and just kind of peek around the corner and just observe and make sure everything's okay. And those moments are happening more often as the girls are getting older now, which is really nice. This is one of those areas where I feel like if your kids are different ages, then this might not be as much of an issue, but for certain with a toddler and a baby, it's definitely a little bit more difficult. When it comes to leaving the house and going on errands with two kids, I think I don't even really need to say the obvious, but I'm going to anyway, just in case. It's a lot more planning and preparation ahead of time for everything, because you have two kids to think about. You have to think about snacks for both of them. You have to make sure that you have water for both of them for on the go. You have to make sure that you have extra diapers and wipes for the baby, or if your toddler is still in diapers also, then you're gonna need to pack diapers for two kids. If your toddler's potty training, then you have to think about bringing a spare change of clothes and some bags and things like that, just in case they have an accident. Little things like that just take up a lot of space in your diaper bag. So I have found that my diaper bag, even though it is one of those big honkin' diaper backpack bags, is so jam-packed to the brim sometimes that I can't even get the zipper closed. And when we were at the pumpkin festival, Mike put on the bag for me because I was carrying Mia, and he actually popped the plastic D-ring that holds one of the little straps on. The whole thing just like pew, like popped off the bottom of it, and it's broken now, and it scratches the crap out of my shoulder unless I'm wearing a jacket, which fortunately it's winter right now, so that hasn't been an issue lately. But yeah, so our diaper bag is quite packed, and I do not want to upgrade to a bigger bag because I cannot even imagine lugging around something bigger than what I'm already lugging around. And I'm a minimalist packer, for the record. I take the bare minimum with me. If I don't absolutely need it, I don't take it. So that says something right there, that my bag is that packed. I mean, I do like to be prepared. Like I said, I bring like a little small spare change of clothes, but I mean, if you could see the inside of my diaper bag, everything is like rolled up and shoved into all the little pockets to make maximum space possible, and it's still crammed full. I also have to plan ahead as far as time goes and give myself lots of extra time. Now, I will say I am always a punctual person. Like if somebody says we need to be there at 4:30, I will make sure that I am there at 4:30 or maybe even a couple of minutes beforehand. It drives me crazy when I end up being late to something. So I give myself more than enough time to get out of the house and get to our destination with a few minutes to spare. And even knowing that, there have been many times with 2 kids that I have been a few minutes late. And it's just because things happen as you're leaving the house. And if you already have 1 kid, I'm sure you're aware of this, but now multiply it by 2. You know, the baby has a blowout in the car seat and you have to do an entire outfit change last minute that you didn't expect. Or, you know, the toddler happens to fall asleep unexpectedly and now you're like, gee, should I sit in the car for a few extra minutes just to let her get a little bit of extra sleep? Or she has an accident in the car seat if she's potty training and now you have to change her clothes. Like, there are all kinds of little things that pop up and you have to gauge for those things potentially happening and give yourself that extra cushioning when you're leaving the house. Otherwise, you will be late to everything, and that is just the reality of it. Also, getting 2 kids into car seats is like a little bit of a circus show sometimes, especially if you have a squirrely toddler who is more interested in everything else that's going on than getting in the car and helping out. My plan of attack usually with getting the kids in the car, depending on what the situation is, sometimes I flip-flop it, but usually what I do is I will go around and open Kylie's door and I'll tell her, okay, you climb in the car, because she can climb into the seat by herself. She just obviously can't buckle herself in. So I'll open the car door and say, okay, you climb in, and I'll stand there holding Mia until she's like in the car physically, even if she's not in the seat yet. And I'll shut the door and I'll say, okay, I'm gonna come back and buckle you in just a minute. This way she's not running around in the parking lot while I'm trying to get Mia in her car seat. So I shut her in, she's busy climbing into her car seat while I go back around to the other side. I get Mia buckled in. Usually by the time I'm done with Mia, Kylie is eventually in her car seat. Sometimes she's still not in her car seat because she's discovered something in between the seats or on the floor and has gotten distracted. So I have to come around and then help her get into the car seat. But most of the time she's able to get herself in there, and then we get her buckled in and then we go. So that's usually how I do it. I don't know if other people have a better system. If you have a better system, let me know in the comments below, because I would be really interested, because at this point I feel like this is the only system that feasibly works with the kids in the ages that I have, and that's why I've been doing it that way. And then as far as the actual errands, once we get to our destination, generally with shopping, when Mia was very little, I always kept her in the carrier, like attached to me, and then I would put Kylie in the shopping cart in the front seat, and that was an easy way to corral both of them at the same time. Or if Mia was in the car seat and she had fallen asleep and I didn't want to wake her up when she was really little, I would take the car seat out and put that in the shopping cart at the bottom part of it, and then put Kylie up in the front seat. So it kind of depended on like if Mia was awake or not, how I would do it. Now that Mia is a little bit older and she is able to sit in the shopping cart seat herself, almost all the time now I will put Mia in the shopping cart seat right in front of me, unless it's Costco. They've got 2 seats, so I can put them both in there. But mostly I put Mia in there, and then Kylie likes to ride in the big shopping bin part of it. On occasion I will let her walk, but as you can imagine, you know, she's got sticky toddler fingers that have to touch everything, so it's often easier just to have her in the cart so we can get through the store much faster. But on occasion I'll let her hop out. If she just says she doesn't want to be in the shopping cart, I'll let her hop out and run around for a few minutes. But usually she gets tired of chasing after us, and then she wants to get back in the shopping cart anyway. So it's usually pretty easy. So the last area that I wanted to address as far as the differences between having 1 kid versus 2 is the area of self-care. This is something that I am continually striving to get better at, because I'm not very good at taking care of myself. And I know that. I am 100% aware of that. I have always been one of those people that I worry about everybody else and everybody else's needs before I think of myself. And I know that for a lot of people, that is an easy recipe for burnout. I've definitely felt like that myself on more than one occasion. But like I said, I'm cognizant of it and I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to, when I have a night where I have nothing to do, which are very far and few between, because as a YouTube mom, I don't even like calling myself that, but I feel like that's how most of you guys view me. As a YouTube mom, I have a lot of editing to do that only happens at night, like right now, after my girls have after both of my girls have gone to bed. That's the only opportunity that I have to do editing and do all of my YouTube work. Evenings for me are usually very busy. I would most definitely, at this point in my YouTube journey, I would consider myself a work-at-home mom. Like, I'm a stay-at-home mom during the day. At night, I am a work-at-home mom. This is a very big job to do. There is so much work that goes on behind the scenes that I'm not sure everybody is really aware of. As far as, I mean, the filming is just the beginning. Then you have all of the editing and the emails and the comments and like the work with brands and sponsors that you have to do. Like, there's just all this whole other business side of it that I now do on a daily basis. And so all of that happens at night. So I would say I usually have maybe 1 or 2 nights a week to myself where I don't have any editing, I don't have any emails to answer or comments to go through or anything like that. And sometimes I even do have some of those things and I choose not to do them because I just need a night for myself. So if I have a night like that, I'm trying to get better at jumping in the tub or something, taking a bath, or just taking a really long hot shower, or sitting down. And one of my favorite hobbies is reading. I love reading. I'm such a bookworm. Actually, this is the book I'm reading right now. It's called French Kids Eat Everything, because I told you Kylie is very picky right now and I've heard good things about this book. So I'm reading that right now. And this is the book that I just finished last night, which is awesome, by the way, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what the happiest people in the world do. Anywho, I like to read books, but again, I only have like 1 or 2 nights a week to actually sit down and do those things because I have a husband who I don't want to ignore either. So we generally spend evenings are our time together after the girls have gone to bed, or on the weekends, like during the whole day. Like, that's our family time, is on the weekends. Relationship wise, since I'm talking about it, my relationship with Mike is not much different than it was with 1 kid versus 2. Like, we still have the same schedule of when we hang out. So that's not much different. But yeah, time for self-care. I definitely had more time when I only had 1 child, and I don't think I took advantage of it as much as I could have. Now that I do not have the time as much as I wish I did for all of those things, I'm realizing just how good I had it back then, I guess. But I'm not complaining. Please, again, I feel like there is so many things in this video that sound like a giant complaint, and I promise you I'm trying not to make it sound that way. I'm just pointing out that this is reality. Like, this is how things are for me, at least. And it's okay with me. I'm just trying to be more active about making sure that I'm taking care of myself and finding time for myself so that I don't go stir crazy. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is related to self-care, but I thought it was a funny one, and I think most parents will be able to relate to this, and that is going to the bathroom. I've had many very funny comments. I don't think they intended for them to be funny, but I laughed when I read some of these comments in the past. People who will comment on my day in the life video, the Montessori one that I put out, that are like, oh, this is clearly staged. When does she go to the bathroom? Because I didn't put it in the video. And that was very amusing to me. Obviously, I go to the bathroom at some point during the day, but I'm not putting that in the vlog. That's weird. But there was one time that I did put it in the vlog, and this is kind of where I'm going with this. I took a video one time of me when Mia was very little, right after she was born. She was probably like a month or 2 old. And I had her in the carrier, and I had to pee so bad, and she was asleep in the carrier, and I was so scared she was gonna wake up because she's never been a great napper, neither was Kylie, and I just had to pee so bad. I was like, I can't wait anymore. Like, I can't wait for her to wake up. I went to the bathroom with Mia attached to me, and I peed, and it was the most glorious pee ever. And I came out of the bathroom, I thought it was funny, which is why I vlogged it, and I came out of the bathroom and I was like, what, you guys don't pee with your baby attached to you? But that's life as a parent of 2 kids. Actually, that could be life with 1 kid, to be honest, but I really don't think I ever did that with Kylie. I don't think, not to my memory. Going to the bathroom is a lot more difficult. I don't go to the bathroom by myself ever anymore. ever. Like, there are a few times if I have Mike's help and he's got both the girls and they're occupied that I can sneak off and I'm like, yes, I can finally go to the bathroom with the door shut in peace. But those times do not happen as often as I would like. So usually I find myself running to the bathroom to pee really fast with Kylie in tow, talking to me about whatever is going on with her play or complaining about something that she needs from me right then and there. And I'm like, I have to pee first, kiddo, like give me a second. Or I'll be holding Mia. I still hold Mia when I go to the bathroom sometimes, although I'm not having to do that as much anymore now that she can like sit up on her own and I can plop her on the floor somewhere. And usually, let's be honest, it's with the door open, so I plop her right outside the bathroom door. But I do sometimes even hold her. She likes to play with the toilet paper and, you know, it is what it is. I don't care. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah, I don't go to the bathroom by myself like ever. And that's a luxury that most dads don't realize is a luxury. I actually explained this to Mike. I was like, do you realize how amazing it is to be able to go into the bathroom for 20 minutes and just sit by yourself? And he laughed at me, but I was like, I'm serious. So yeah, going to the bathroom by yourself with one kid is possible. With two kids, not very likely to happen. So get used to it. The other aspect of it is if your toddler is potty training, going to the bathroom with two kids is very interesting. Let's just suffice it to say that I have learned how to very skillfully, might I add, wipe Kylie's butt when she goes to the bathroom while I'm nursing Mia. Like, I can do both of those things at the same time. It's almost like my toddler has this alarm that goes off in her body and she suddenly has to go right when I'm nursing the baby. It happens all the time. I'm not sure why, it does. And yes, she needs help with wiping still because she's only 3. Like, she's not good at it. I'm sure she could do it on her own, but she wouldn't do a very good job. So I feel the need to go in, even if she does try on her own, and go in after her to make sure that she's clean and everything is hygienic. I'm literally on the floor, like on the balls of my feet with Mia in my arm and kind of straddled across my lap while Kylie is bent over my leg and holding on while I wipe her butt. And it is definitely a skill that I'm not sure if I want to be proud of it, but I am. I'll admit it. I'm proud of it. It's a pretty good skill. And that is certainly something that I never imagined myself doing when I thought about having 2 kids. And you know what? It keeps things amusing. I appreciate it. I find the silver lining in all of these things, and it gives me reasons to chuckle to myself during the day and keep myself entertained so that I don't, you know, slip off into the absurdity of everything else that's going on. Before I leave you, I want to leave you with this. All of everything that I just said, bearing that in mind, having 2 kids is the most incredible thing in the whole world. I love having 2 kids. I love it. Like, watching the interaction of my toddler with my baby makes my heart want to explode into 1,000 little pieces every single time. Kylie has recently learned to say I love you, like, as an expression of love, like, and truly mean it. Like, she understands what it means when she says it. And I think sometimes, like, I might spontaneously combust when I'm just sitting there and out of nowhere, Kylie will look over at Mia and reach across and like caress her cheek and go, I love you, sissy. And it is so freaking cute. And it is my hope that they will be so close as they get older. And I'm just so excited to watch all of that unfold as a parent. I love both of my kids to pieces. I would do absolutely anything for both of them in equal measure. Having 2 kids was the best decision of my life. I 100% stand by that. So yeah, having 2 kids, totally awesome. Love it. So glad I did it. 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend it. If you liked today's video and you appreciated my raw honesty, give it a big thumbs up, and I will see you next time.